Yeah, let me show you something I've been working on here. This is a new little project got going on. Basically, the idea is if you look at the polynomial in the fourth dimensional space, but the second fourth dimensional space, and you wrap that around the flux capacitor regulation laws, of course, then you can achieve a simulation of a banana that no one else has ever seen before. So that's the idea. I think we're live. Are we live, Hugh?
Yeah.
We're live. Okay, we'll talk about this later. Okay.
It's actually talking about that with Mark Ten Bosch and Jaeger Curie.
Of how to
fluid dynamics.
Of like banana fluid dynamics, or just fluid dynamics in general?
I don't know if they're bananas in particular.
I see.
Just fluids.
A banana is kind of a fluid, a very slow-moving fluid. So I'm here with David Rosen from Wolfire Games. David works on a game most well known for Overgrowth, as well as some other games. So we're going to talk about those and talk about making games and talk about games and other games and games and games. So do you want to just kind of introduce yourself, or I don't know what's going on right now in your head?
Sure. Yeah, I'm David. A lot of people probably listen to my video vlogs.
Right. You were saying that you're not sure if too many people are aware of what you look like, because most of the time they want to see the video game. They don't want to...
Yeah. So I always show the game and just talk over it.
Right.
So when I meet people at GDC, they have no idea who I am, and then
Right.
I start talking, and they're like, "Oh, you're the video blog guy."
You're the
from
voice.
Wolfire."
You're the voice. I bet the Portal woman also gets that a lot.
Oh yeah, probably.
So, yeah, I have a first question lined up, and this is one I wanted to get out of the way because it is pretty serious, and it addresses something I think a lot of us struggle with, and that's deciding if you were stranded on a desert island, what's the one video game you would play and bring in. But the stipulation is there's no electricity, no console, and no PC. So the video game has to be practical in the sense like you could dig with it or use it to defend yourself against boars, or what video game would it be?
I think I might go with baseball. So I can
The
have a
original.
bat.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna bring a. I did say video game, but I'll let it slide because
like
that's
video game
thinking
peripheral.
that's thinking outside the box, and I like that.
Guitar
But maybe
Hero
a
might work.
Guitar Hero would be good. I was kind of thinking. You remember that Xbox mech game, the original Xbox? I forget what
Oh
it was
yeah,
called.
Steel Battalion.
Steel Battalion. You know, that thing was like made out of actual steel, I think, and you could definitely kill a boar with that. So I'd probably bring that. But moving along, so Overgrowth is the game you've been working on the most.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to like basically describe what it is? I think Hugh will probably put up a video while we're talking about it, and I guess where the development process is right now. Yeah.
Sure. So Overgrowth is a Ninja Rabbit fighting game in 3D. It's probably most similar to the mainstream game Assassin's Creed, in that you see him from above and you go around and you can climb on things and fight with guys.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time on the low-level mechanics, like the fighting itself, which has a very different fighting system than most other games.
It's all kind of physically simulated. Like you simulate the leg, right? It's not just a pure animation.
It has a lot of physics-based elements and procedural animation.
Right.
But now I'm working on the more gamey aspects, like to give actual context to the fighting.
So it's not just rabbits fighting each other with no reason. They're fighting because right now you're working on a kind of arena mode.
Yeah, I'm starting with this arena mode, so you have, it kind of makes the most sense for why you would be fighting so
Right.
many different guys.
Because you're in an arena, and that's all there is to do in an arena is fight.
Yeah. And it solves a lot of design problems I was having.
Like what kind of problems?
With the physics-based system, sometimes you'll just kick somebody in the head, they'll hit their head on a rock, and they're just dead. And that's kind of a very efficient way to win the fight, but it's also not the most fun way. And you always want the fun and efficiency to line up. So the most fun way to play is the most efficient.
Right.
So a game like Tony Hawk, Pro Skater, like the most fun way is to do all these cool tricks, and the most efficient way to get a high score is to do all these cool tricks.
Right, and combo them together, and which is fun as well. Grind from this pole to that pole. Right.
So the arena is kind of a way to do that with fighting, because you're trying to impress the audience by doing all this really cool stuff.
Right.
And the end goal is to get the most fans that you can and retire. And the best way to get fans is just be super impressive and fight in really cool ways.
How do you measure what is a cool fight?
Well, there are certain. It's pretty simple right now. It's actually not dissimilar.
You
to
just
Tony Hawk.
broadcast it on Twitch and let people vote?
That would be a cool way to do it, like to get real audience members. Right. What I've been doing is something a lot like Tony Hawk, like different moves, different events have different effects on the audience, and
Right.
they change the audience excitement level, which kind
Okay.
of decays over time.
So if you like jump and do a kick in midair, that maybe scores higher than...
Yeah, like jumping is slightly cool,
Right.
but if you just jump around, they get bored pretty
I
fast.
see.
But like a long exchange of dodges and blocks would be like one of the most exciting things.
So the audience kind of has a memory of the moves they've seen, and so if you just become the guy who keeps doing the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
they're gonna lose interest. Is that the idea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we already have that system in place for the AI. So like if you keep doing the same kick, the AI will just predict
Learn
it.
about it, yeah.
So you can just use that for the audience to see if you're doing something exciting or not.
How in depth is your AI? Do the AI characters communicate with each other in any way? Or are they all kind of just independent?
They don't communicate too much yet. Was mostly working on the 1v1 fighting, but if you do hurt them and they see a friend nearby, they'll run over and bring him back
I see.
and say where you used to be. So you probably don't want to be there when
I
they
see.
get back.
So they retain a memory of where you were. They don't have perfect knowledge of. I went to the Hitman AI talk at GDC. The Game Developers Conference was just last week, was it, or the week before? And
I lose track.
yeah. But they talked about how their AI has 3 senses. They have sight, they have sound, and I'm sure you could guess the last one is Hitman. The sense of Hitman. So like they have some limited like intuitive sense of Hitman, and something. They didn't go into too much depth of it, but I thought that was a funny concept. So you might want to consider a rabbit sensor. That helps out.
I try to treat the AI a lot like just simulating a multiplayer player,
Right.
because like their powers are very symmetric. Like the enemies are about as strong and fast, as skilled as you are. You don't have any special moves that they don't. Like a lot of these brawling games, like Assassin's Creed, they have a really big difference between what the player can do and what the enemies do. So the enemies have this really slow telegraphed attack, and you have like really fast attacks that interrupt them. But
the balance there is probably more that you're surrounded by 10 of these guys, right? So they probably have to slow down the attacks too. You're focusing more on individual battles, 1-on-2, maybe 1-on-3. Is that the difference?
It's pretty interesting to have to deal with these guys who don't take turns or telegraph things, because they have to run around, so you kind of organize them into a line. So there's one guy closest between the other guys, and you fight that guy, and you just have to manage your space really well.
It's always, if you're watching an action movie with somebody who doesn't watch a lot of action movies, they'll ask you why they're taking turns to fight the good guy. It doesn't make any sense, but it makes for cooler movie scenes, I guess.
So the Overgrowth characters don't take turns. Like, someone will knock you over, then like 2 guys will kick you in the head while you're on the ground.
Right.
So you really don't want to get into that kind of situation.
So is this arena mode? Is this the kind of 1.0 version of the game you envision? Or do you have other game modes planned as well?
We have other game modes planned as well. Like I also want to do this Raider mode, which is a little bit like Mountain Blade, if you've tried that, where there's sort of a world map and you can see convoys and things going around and guard patrols, and you try and attack the convoys. You can attack guard patrols if you want, but they'd be really hard and not very...
So you're trying to avoid the guard patrols while getting the goals or whatever the end goal is.
And there could also be other gangs that you have to negotiate territory with. So sort of just meta games on top of the core fighting.
The fighting system you've developed. Very cool. I wanted to also talk about some of your other games, and we could get back to Overgrowth, but I wanted to first talk about Receiver, I guess. Probably the most popular game you've made that isn't Overgrowth. Yeah. So Hugh, do you want to put on the video of Receiver? Okay, we'll have Receiver up for any of you who aren't aware. This recently got greenlit, right? Mm-hmm. So that's very cool. Greenlight is the system on Steam that you can all vote and say what games you want to see on Steam. So first of all, what's your plans with the greenlight process? You haven't released it yet, have you?
It's not released on Steam yet. There are a few hoops we have to jump through.
Okay.
But it should be up pretty soon.
That's cool. So is it pretty much the same version that is available and you're just going to release it on Steam?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what is Receiver? What was the event that started Receiver?
So Receiver was created for the 7-day first-person shooter event, which was created by JW from Vlambeer, I believe, along with somebody else.
And this was a week where everyone was working on a first-person game.
Like the name implies, you have to make an FPS in 7 days.
And not all of them were shooters. Yours was, but not all of them were. Do you remember any of the other cool things that came out of that?
I remember trying a bunch of them, but I don't remember the details
There's
too
some
much.
cool ones.
There was one sort of Portal-like puzzle game about flipping gravity, which looked pretty neat.
Right.
And one about like crashing on an alien planet, trying to survive.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think I remember that one. So yours was, I guess, a pretty standard first-person shooter overall, but with a twist, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if twist is the right word, but with a change to one of the core mechanics in a first-person shooter.
Well, for a long time, I'd wanted to make a shooting game that's actually about the gun itself. Because, like a couple Halloweens ago, I dressed up as Fox Mulder. I got this.
I could see that. I could see that.
I got this airsoft 6-hour 226 BB gun.
Right.
But it was fun to play with because you could pull back the slide and like remove the magazine.
So I want to go back to Mulder really quick. Did you just put on a suit and basically you were Mulder, or did you have anything more to the costume? Like, did you have the poster with you? I want to believe.
No, well, I had his coat that he would always wear, the sort
Okay.
of trench coat.
Yeah, the duster.
The shoulder holsters.
Got it.
And his FBI ID badge.
People were pretty keen on it. They knew you were supposed to be Mulder.
Some people did. Some
Okay.
people just thought I was some random,
Guy with a badge and a
yeah,
fair enough.
some FBI guy.
So yeah, back to receiver. Sorry.
So there are also a lot of cool examples, like Norland is a game by Cactus. It had this mechanic where every time you reload your rifle, you had to press these 4 keys in the right sequence to do the bolt action.
So the sequence was the same every time, or did it randomly?
Yeah, it was the same sequence.
Each button was mapped to one of these kind of movements you would do in real life to load the gun.
But it made the shooting a lot more compelling.
Right.
Like Gears of War kind of did something with the reload.
The
It had
active
that
reload
active
system,
reload,
yeah.
but it's not really very active. It's
Yeah,
just-
I think when you hit it, it gave you a cool feeling of you got that bonus reload speed or whatever it was. I think it gave you that
Yeah.
cool feeling, but
It had a cool feeling, but it's kind of like the timing minigame. And
Right.
reloading is not about timing or reaction times. It's about muscle memory. So I want to
Right.
do something more with sequences of keys.
I see. So
More
you
along the
wanted to
lines of-
capture the muscle memory through having the keys that you.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that. When I type a lot, obviously at work, and so I do have the muscle memory for certain very complicated keys, like things where you have to press 4 keys at once to do a search on all the files or whatever. It becomes very natural after a while. You don't even think about it. So muscle memory translates from programming into.
Especially for passwords.
Yes.
You probably type that like super fast.
Yeah, you need to have 18 character passwords now too. So yeah, you just have to.
And the opposite is with muscle memory, it's always very hard to do it the first time. It's like the first time people try to reload in receiver, they press R. And they're like, R is always reload, but in receiver, R is rack the slide. And that actually just removes bullets from your chamber.
So you're just losing bullets then.
Mhm. So people are like, and all the bullets are flying everywhere. And then you can press help, and it has this active help system
Right.
where it'll highlight what it thinks you probably want to do.
So there's kind of at the top right of the screen or somewhere, there's a
Yeah.
kind of the shows you what key does what. So what are some of the examples of?
So it's very roguelike inspired. You press question mark to show the screen,
Mhm.
and then it'll usually say something like, press E to eject magazine, and they do that. And you press like tilde to holster your gun.
Right.
And you press Z to insert a bullet in your magazine.
So it knows when the magazine is out. There's certain actions you probably want to do, and it highlights those to give you that
Yeah.
indication.
So it's basically the same AI that you would use if you wanted to actually make the AI play the game.
Right.
But it's just using that to suggest things you might want to be doing.
Got it.
So otherwise it's overwhelming to just have this whole list of keys. It's kind of like, a lot of games do that thing where you start the demo, it's like, here's everything every button does on your
Right.
controller.
Well, it's nice sometimes to actually have a picture of a controller and what that button's mapped, but yeah, that still is usually overwhelming. You're just looking for what's to move, what's to shoot, or whatever. Like the core of things are what you care about, and you'll learn other things over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this active help system was sort of somewhat of a solution to this, or
Yeah.
helped this problem.
My game design is almost always like pet peeve motivated. It's like, I play this game, like the whole design of Overgrowth was about how in fighting games it kind of looks silly when you just punch at the air, because you don't
Right.
really know how the range of your attacks.
So it doesn't connect, but it might still count in the game. That's the pet peeve.
Well, like in Street Fighter, when you jam on punch, your guy's just like,
Oh, okay.
But he's not actually punching anyone. Or when I was playing Oni, Oni is one of my favorite fighting games. It's kind of 3D,
Okay.
made by Bungie back
Oh,
in the day.
interesting. I haven't heard of it.
But so you press click to punch, and you press right click to kick. You can do all these combos. But in 3D, it's kind of hard to see depth.
Right.
So I'd be punching the air a lot, and it made me feel really stupid.
So you had an enemy in front of you, but you weren't quite close enough or whatever.
Yeah.
So wait, so in Overgrowth, if you punch and there's no one there, does it not execute the punch?
Well, you hold the attack button, which kind of signals your intent to attack.
I see.
It's a little bit more like the Impact Hammer in Unreal Tournament or the Gauntlet in Quake 3. So it's like, I want to attack, and then it triggers when you get nearby based on what you're doing. So if you're like running to the right, you do a spin kick that hits them to the right. Or if you're crouching, you'll sweep.
Okay.
Or if you're really close, you'll do like a punch.
Does it also indicate to like the AI responds based off you getting ready to punch? And
Yeah, the AI can see you
so
winding
they
up.
might know they should block very soon.
And you can see them winding up. So
Yeah.
like, I'm going to attack you. So then you can rush in and try and trigger their attack and counter it really easily.
Right.
Because you know the timing. Because attacks themselves aren't really telegraphed. You can kind of see their intent.
Right.
Which I feel like is a little more like real fighting. Like you kind of look at their eyes to see what they're going to do. Or you look at their chest.
Have you ever had to fight a person? Or maybe not have to, but if you ever wanted, did you ever fight someone? Whether you had to or not.
I've taken martial arts class and done sparring. I've
Okay.
never actually like fought someone in earnest.
Right.
Because I try to avoid that kind
Do you
of
feel
situation.
that you would be in an advantage in a fight now that you've worked on Overgrowth?
No.
That
Not
wouldn't
at
really
all.
factor in too much, basically.
Yeah, anyone who fought me would be like the kind of person who fights, and they would just be like stronger and faster.
Because I feel after working on natural selection for so long, if I was in a space station with an advanced marine, rifle, and there was a skulk, I feel I'd have at least like a 1% better chance. Not a lot, but at least a 1%.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wouldn't discount it.
A lot of it counts for shooting. Like I went to a shooting range, and in that sense, like all the debate about violent video games is kind of accurate. Like I don't think it makes people more violent, but does make you better at shooting.
Really? You thought that your aim was improved by having played first-person shooters?
Well, I had never shot a gun before, really.
Right.
But I could just pick it up and reload it, make it ready, and just shoot it. Get a pretty tight grouping, just because I know like what the sight picture is. supposed to look
Right.
Like.
That's
But-
interesting. I've only shot a real gun like once when I was a child, strangely enough. But it was safe. It wasn't like anyway. But I did a lot of paintball, and I found the experience of playing paintball was far different from any video
Yeah.
game because so much about paintball is it hurts when you get shot. You don't want that to happen, probably. So and there's also it's such a tactile game where you're on one side of a barrier and you're feeling the bullets hit the other side. You know you're being pinned
Yeah,
down.
that was exactly my experience. Like it's way scarier than games. Like,
yeah.
Especially because, like in Gears of War, you go into cover and your camera is still looking over.
Right.
But in these, you can't see anything when you're in cover because like your head is hidden.
Oh, and you're in that mask too that just obscures your vision a little bit. At
You don't want
least.
to look over because then if you get hit right in the face.
Right.
You don't
Which
really
is
want
generally
that.
what you want to avoid.
And it's just kind of scary.
I'm trying to get the guys here to go paintballing because I feel like if you're making a first-person shooter, Hugh's giving the thumbs up. You got to play paintball. You got to get another thumbs up from Steve. Okay, I got a group of 3 at least. But,
Jeff and John went a while ago, and they want to go again.
Okay,
I'd be down.
we'll go with you guys, and we'll team up against a bunch of noobs there.
Wolfire, Humble.
Usually, what happens in paintball is, like, even if you have your own gun, there's going to be some guy there that has the full fatigues, and he has the thing that looks like a real gun and shoots like, I don't know, 400 bullets a minute or whatever, or a second. And he's just gonna like, his kill death ratio is higher than everybody else basically by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to, because we're not moving along fast enough. I wanted to talk
to the
about
Overgrowth
Desperate
Art
Gods
Asset
now.
Overview.
This was something that I was personally very interested in because I'm a big fan of tabletop games. And this is kind of a tabletop game. It is on a table, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's not a. Hugh's probably going to put a video up of that now. So it's not a traditional tabletop game. So what was the history of this project?
Well, Desperate Gods was for this. I don't know if I guess you probably don't care. It's called Fuck This Jam. It's where you're trying to make a game in a genre that you usually don't like.
Right. Hence the name.
I actually like board games a lot, but I don't like video game adaptations of board games.
Oh, okay.
I feel like they lose a lot in translation. If you make a video game about Monopoly, like the standard approach is like you press click to roll the dice. and then it automatically moves you.
Right.
So you're not really doing much except for making the individual buy or don't buy decisions.
Right. Like each decision point is part of the game, but the actual physicality of moving pieces around, and that's kind of automated because it can be.
Because it's fun just to like pick up your little thimble and be like, do, do, do,
Right,
do.
right.
And it's
The
fun
shoe or
to
whatever.
roll a dice. It makes you feel more like you have. Like dice are all about this illusion of agency.
Right.
Like you're kind of putting your fate into the die.
But every time we play a dice game, it's always like the thing is that I'm always horrible at dice. In my gaming group, I'm always the one that is. If there's a cooperative game that has dice rolling, they don't give the dice to me. It's just not gonna happen. So there's that illusion of agency that is very important to games that have dice, at least.
Yeah. And there's also this meta game, like if you're playing with a new guy and they do something dumb, you can be like, do you want to undo that? I don't think that should count. But you can't do that in this digital Monopoly game because there's just no like undo button. Or if there is, you don't know how far it's going to undo.
Right. It's a little ambiguous in terms of. So this game is the game rules are enforced just socially, right? There's no the game isn't even really aware of its rules.
There's no like rules AI. It's just a physics-based simulation of all the pieces of the game.
Right.
And you can move them around. It does automatically set it up for you if you want. There's like a setup from start button, which is a lot of people don't like because some troll will come in there in the middle of the game and just press it. So
well, because this is also an online multiplayer game.
Yeah.
So it's like 4 or 6 people could come together and all play at the same time.
So I always advise people to password protect their rooms.
Right, right.
Someone
So
can
just flip the table over.
Yeah, throw all the pieces around.
But do you have the ability to flip the table?
You can't actually flip the entire table.
Could you flip the board?
No,
Oh.
but you can like take the decks of cards and just spray them all over.
I don't know. I mean, because there is some like there's times in games I get so frustrated I want to flip the table.
Yeah.
But like it would make a big mess and probably hit someone's TV and there'd be a lot of crying. But if I could do that in a video game, that'd be very, I think very very fun.
There's that Japanese game that's all about flipping tables.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that. This is like an arcade game where there's a physical table you have to flip at the right time.
Flip it as hard as you can.
Yeah. Cool. So that game is people could just it's finished, right? They could go in.
It's finished and free and open source.
Cool. It's on GitHub.
As part of the point was that originally we just wanted to focus on the game itself. We were trying to paper prototype it.
Right.
But that actually kind of takes forever.
Right.
Like, if you want to make 5 copies of a card, you have to write it out, put in the sleeve and everything, and then it
make sure the backs are all the same if there's any differences.
And it looks all janky because it's all programmer handwriting.
Right.
So it was originally meant to be like a paper prototyping platform.
Right. Okay. So a digital paper prototyping platform. Was that maybe the right term for it?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
also hard to get people.
That makes sense in a weird way.
It's hard to get people in one room to play your paper prototypes. Like
That's
Tim,
true.
Tim can probably vouch for that with his Chess the Gathering.
Have you thought about? I guess it's open source, but making this something that is easy to plug in different cards and making it like right now it is just the Desperate Gods game, right? But have you thought about in some future if you ever had time for this type of thing, or is that kind of what you thought of this platform originally?
It'd be really cool to make it more explicitly accessible, like with a built-in editor. But this was also 1 week jam, so just ran out of time.
Which I mean, I think it's really impressive that you were able to do this in a week because it is very polished especially for a week. There are some other projects like this that are more generic. They're not like I play this game called Netrunner. And there's a platform called Octagon, and it's this type of thing where you can script it in Python and give some automation. But it's nearly not anywhere as cool as this. You could everything's 2D. You could flip cards over. You can move them around the table freely, but the scripting, they have automation built in, and it almost makes it more complicated rather than just having the players enforce the rules because not everything is automated. And so I think this is really cool in that it really does look like just a bunch of cardboard on the table, and the way you manipulate that is very intuitive versus having some right-click menu to do some function.
Thanks.
Anyway, to summarize, I'm a big fan. And then
part of the point is also just to make something that people can point to and then copy.
Right.
And I'd encourage everyone to copy all my ideas as long as they give credit.
So with this project on GitHub, have people been contributing back to it yet?
Yeah, there are a lot of mods that would make the game a little bit better, and there are some total conversions, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. Was this project in Unity?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always use Unity for the game jams just
Right.
because it's really easy to deploy to Mac, Windows, and Linux.
Right. Handles that process entirely. And it has has some networking built in and physics and kind of, yeah.
I don't want to spend time in a game jam in like DLL hell or anything like
Right,
that.
right. Why isn't this linking? So, and I want to talk about the last game that you worked on recently, Low Light Combat. This was for another game jam, right?
Mm-hmm. That was, I don't even remember. Oh, that's for the Mojam. The
Right.
Humble Bundle Mojam 2 charity drive.
So this was you, Wolfire, Mojang, were the other people involved with this?
Yeah, there are a couple other ones this time.
Okay. And so you were all just working on a bunch of different projects for a week again, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what was Low Light Combat?
Well, Low Light Combat was meant to be a stealth-based deathmatch game.
Right. So kind of inspired by Quake, that type of deathmatch?
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like trying to take Quake and make it more stealthy.
I see.
So it kind of discourages shooting unless you have like a really clear shot. So it's just every player is a nuclear-powered cyber ninja,
Sure.
and they have enough nuclear power to keep them alive for 1 minute.
So why is it that it takes so much power to keep them alive? Is this explained, or is it just this is just obviously the way it is?
Well, that's just how it works.
Yeah, that's just how it
Like
is.
cyber ninjas.
They
take
require a
power.
lot of power. That's fair enough, I guess. I can't argue yet.
And they're pretty small, so they can't carry that much power in them.
Right. Okay, it all adds up. I checked it out. It all adds up.
So whenever you fire your nuclear-powered beam shotgun, that uses up 15 seconds of your life.
Okay, so firing your weapon is part of your life, essentially.
Right. So you can't shoot and die because, like, the reason the cyber ninjas are fighting is to decide world issues for the Illuminati.
Right, there's like a proxy war going on that...
So they don't want to tie. So you can't shoot when you have less than 15 seconds of life.
So if you have less than 15 seconds, is the goal just to outlast the other players?
We also have an energy sword,
Oh, okay.
so you can use your energy sword.
Does that take energy as well?
Mhm.
It's called the energy sword. I guess it'd be absurd if it didn't,
Yeah,
right?
but a lot less than your beam shotgun.
Right.
'Cause
So
the beam
that's maybe
shotgun-
only like, what, 5% of your life or something?
Well, you have to. There's a sort of high energy mode you can enter, which makes you run super fast, and you can use your sword.
Okay.
And it uses 4 times as much life as usual.
Right.
So it doesn't use like a fixed amount of it, but
So if you know it's you and one last guy and you see him and he's too far away, but if you go into the high mode, you could get there in time and sword
Yeah.
him and barely... So every round takes like a minute maximum? Is that the idea?
whenever you kill someone, you get all of their remaining life.
Okay.
And it's up to 8 players.
And so does this game keep going on for some period of time?
It's
Do you respawn? Is
it's
there
kind of survivor
Okay.
mechanics. Everyone, once you die, you go into this spectator mode.
Right. And this was something that really cool about your spectator mode I saw is that you visualize all the other spectators, right?
Yeah, I was thinking it's kind of lonely and boring sometimes when you're dead.
Right. You
And-
feel like you're alone here in heaven.
Being able to see other spectators is kind of fun because you can kind of fly in circles around them.
Sure.
Or you can look at where they are to see where the action is happening.
Yeah, if you see 3 guys over here, that was, when I saw that's a very intuitive way to kind of communicate that type of information. So that's a trend I'm noticing in a lot of your games is you have like these simple systems or methods to like a lot of other games I think would be tempted to have some complicated map you bring up to show where the other spectators are. I don't even know what you would do, but that's a very intuitive way to handle that problem. I'm noticing this trend in your games. Do you think that's fair to say?
Well, it's a
I
fun
don't know if I
thing.
communicated that well.
I think it's always fun to try and just question conventions.
Hmm.
Like, you don't want to ever just put something in the game because that's how every other game does it without thinking about it, because maybe it's not the best way to do it.
Right.
So, especially in game jams, because it's so little cost, and it's just a great place to try.
The spectator thing was probably relatively easy to add, I would imagine. And
Yeah.
if it, I mean, how would it fail even? But if it did, that's such a small part of the game, probably relative to the actual combat. And
So it's a great place to try things that are not too hard, but are also different from how things are usually done.
right.
You have to experiment a lot just by necessity, because like you can't make like a cinematic rail shooter really
Right.
in a week.
Right. Something that's fully dependent on a bunch of content. So, got it. So we have some questions here. Um, do you want to answer this one, or would you rather not?
Could talk about it.
Okay. So the first question here from the chat is, what is the release date of Overgrowth?
So I've been aiming. Recently, we're trying to sort of wind it down a little bit with the getting all the metagame in. We want to at least go to beta within a year. Beta basically means it's done, but we still want to do support, bug fixes,
Some last minute
optimizations,
polish or
all of that stuff.
Yeah, our game was in beta for something like a year and a half. So hopefully you could have a faster beta period than ours, but
So
it sounds
pretty-
like it might be another couple of years or year and a half, something like that.
It's
kind of what
because
you're
I've
estimating.
been working.
I don't think people actually want it to be done. Like, I don't know why anyone would want us to stop working on it
Right.
if they like it. They just want it to be like playable from beginning to end. And
Whoop.
Yeah, and I think the
Definitely.
conceptual kind of 1.0 release is important to people still. I mean, it comes from the retail days.
yeah,
Yeah, people, and also for reviews and stuff like that.
so we're gonna aim to have that by next GDC, hopefully. Though one good thing about being indie is like if it's not good enough by that time, we'll just keep making it better.
Right. And people are still getting builds. What do you release, like every couple weeks or so, something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's delayed a little bit by GDC this time.
right. It happens. Every game's delayed by GDC. Are there plans to get more people working on Overgrowth is another question. So what is the team size right now?
The core team is just me and Aubrey.
2 people.
So I do programming, design, animation, and Aubrey does levels, art, pretty much all of the art, like concepts, textures, models.
Some sound and music stuff.
And their contracts
Okay.
guys, Tapio Leo Cronin.
Yeah, he worked on one of my games too. He's really good. He's very good at snow sounds.
Yeah, there's a
because
lot
he
of snow in
lives
Finland.
he lives like north of the wall where it's always just snowing.
He's really pro all around.
He's very good.
And Nico Tarmia does music,
Okay.
and Anton Real helps with that. I think he plays the flute in some of the songs,
Right.
and did all the music for our game jams.
So do you see the possibility of having another programmer come on board or another artist or
Well, scaling up by like one like that is really hard, because then I have to spend my time overseeing what they're doing.
right. Right
So-
now you're just everything that you need to work on is all just you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like going from one programmer to 2 programmers might not even increase productivity because of the communication increase.
Welcome
But
to the
going from,
Overgrowth
like, one
Art Asset
programmer to
Overview.
5 programmers. Now I'm the lead programmer, and I have these 4 guys. I spend all my time overseeing them. I don't have to switch gears. So that could be helpful, but I don't know if I want to do that.
Right. Another question from Twitch. I don't quite understand this, but I'm going to say it. Can I use David's voice for my alarm? And I don't know what alarm they're talking about, but maybe you could work with that. He wants to use your voice for his alarm. Is that okay?
Fine with me.
All right. Will Overgrowth be open world?
Sort of. It won't be like Skyrim where you can just walk around forever, like run your horse up mountains and things.
Right, right.
But the Raider mode will probably be more like Mountain Blade, or the original Fallout, where you're going around on this world map and there are specific places you can go.
I see.
And probably some randomized wilderness.
So you'll kind of transition between these bigger areas through some mechanism rather than just walking there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if you fight a convoy, then it would go into a forest map, which is
I
similar
see.
to what it shows on the world map. But
So your higher level decisions are probably happening on some kind of maybe 2D or top-down representation, and then the on-foot stuff you go down.
yeah, so it should have the same kind of sense of freedom to it.
So I think
It
the
won't
answer is
be
yes.
quite the
It's
same.
open world under some definition of open world. Because even Skyrim, it's limited, right? The world's not infinite. Minecraft is infinite, I guess, or limited by your memory or something.
Yeah.
Is Overgrowth multiplayer? That's another question.
It has local multiplayer right now, so you can play any of the levels co-op, or you can do a one-on-one deathmatch kind of thing. I don't know about online multiplayer yet. 'Cause
It'd probably be a technical challenge with all the
Yeah.
physics simulations going on, and
it's especially hard to kind of retcon multiplayer into a game that's been single player for a few years.
right.
And like in low light combat, I had to learn multiplayer basically from nothing,
In a week too, right?
and that was really hard.
Yeah.
So
Did Unity help with that? Their mechanisms to synchronize game objects or did you kind of circumvent their
Yeah,
built-in?
I didn't use any of their stuff.
Okay,
It
so
kind
you
of-
went to a lower level and just
It kind of actually made it a lot harder.
yeah.
The stuff they had built in.
Fair enough. So 2 more questions, and I'm going to put these in reverse order. So if Unity had existed at the start of Overgrowth development, would have you used that rather than build your own tech? Because Overgrowth is developed just in C++ and OpenGL. You don't
Yeah.
use too many third-party tools, right?
I used some open source projects like Bullet Physics
Right.
or Recast, Navigation Mesh generation.
Sure.
I don't know if I'd want to use Unity for a full project because I always feel like it makes it really fast to get 90% of the way there, and then it's really slow.
You
to
kind of
make
get stuck
progress.
up on some specific issues, and because you don't have Unity source code, that type of problem.
Yeah,
I see.
so I don't know if I would do that, but I would definitely I kind of want to prototype any future games in Unity or something like it,
Right.
just to make sure I know exactly what we're doing.
Would you have been able to prototype Overgrowth? So much Overgrowth is about that low-level kind of combat that I don't know if you would have been able to very quickly prototype that in. Do you think you would have been able to?
It wouldn't be super quick, but it'd be a lot quicker.
Okay. You might have been able to learn some lessons. Maybe that would have taken 2 months, but you would have learned a lot of good stuff there. You could have applied to
Yeah.
your own engine.
And I want to have prototypes like from the whole game beginning to end. So I know, like that was the biggest, if I were doing the Gamba Sutra, what went right, what went wrong.
Right.
That's the biggest thing that went wrong, I think, is not knowing exactly what we're doing from the start.
I see.
We're kind of doing tech R&D at the same time as doing gameplay R&D, which is, I think, why it's taken so long.
So you maybe could have prototyped the gameplay in Unity.
Yeah, so we only now really know what we're doing.
And then the last question is, will David grow a beard like Brian's? Just because when you have a beard, people make jokes about beards. It just happens. So I would recommend not doing it, but they want to know if you will. And I don't know, can you predict the future?
I could try. I don't know if I could pull it off.
All right. So
Tom's the
what
beard
he's saying
grower.
right now, I think, is he's saying he's going to try. He's committing to trying here on camera live. So I think that's what has been promised. So yeah, was there anything else you wanted to go over, to talk about, to announce? Overgrowth 2, can we announce it now?
I don't think so.
No, we're not going to announce it yet, but maybe. Okay, well, I think that's it for now, so thanks for watching. We're still trying to come up with a name for this series, but we had an idea for what was it? What did you say? Brian's Game Corner? Yeah, Brian's Game Corner we're thinking of, so let me know if you think that's a good idea. We need a title for it. We're going to do it next month, get another local developer in and talk about games and stuff. So thanks for watching. All right, are we out? Because last time you said we were out and we weren't really out, and then we kept talking and it was awkward, and so I still don't know if he's cut out. But anyway, I'm going to go off camera so that it's kind of symbolically out. All right, that's good. So end it now.